Chapter 1, April 6, 2017. Sex sold well, but a tease sold better. I knew that, but he didn't. At least not yet. We stood facing each other on the pool deck, waiting for the looming clouds to part and unveil the sunshine. From the start, he was the one, and his name was Noel. Noel was toned like a twink, but with more muscle size and definition than the average gay man. His shirtless frame shuddered from the cold spring morning. The ocean winds caught his flowing brown locks, battering and obscuring his tan-colored eyes. Out of 10 aspiring models, only he possessed the zazz the others lacked. They were too macho, too Spartan, too, dare I say, manly. He had the face of a boy and the body of a god.
Not much of a spring shoot, now is it, Jason?
Noel said, boasting a deep yet dramatic tone of voice.
I'd give it 2 more hours.
You're silly. Clouds are springtime's way of saying hello. Now stand over by the edge. Noel went to his assigned spot about an inch from my apartment complex's pool. He continued to shiver as I took out my point-and-click camera and set the image quality to high. He gave me a smirk, and it looked okay through the shitty viewfinder. 3, I said, shaking my bony arm every which way. 2, I gazed deeper into my camera and my right arm turned numb. 1, I stretched my thumb over the shutter button. Pick up quarters. I pressed the button. Noel snickered a bit but lost his balance. He tumbled into the pool, making a splash loud enough for the birds to notice. And that's a wrap for the first TCS shoot. Noel climbed out of the pool. Before I could hand him a towel, he cornered me in front of the towering hedges.
Pick up quarters? What the fuck was that? And we're already done?
I get tired of the word cheese, I said. It was either that or shout out about bunnies. It reminds me of grilled cheese, which I hate. Noel's muscles relaxed and he stepped to the side.
It's cool.
Oh yeah, we're done for the day. Let's get you dried off. Noel and I went towards a metal bistro table. I brought a spare towel from my place just in case something like this happened, but I wasn't expecting any accidents on the first day. As Noel dried himself, I glanced at the picture in my camera's album. It was the frame between desire and reality. I looked at him, then back at the picture. It was easy to stare at a photo of a guy I hired as a crush, but it was even easier to stare at the real man Candy. I felt a tingling below my waist. I hadn't felt since dropping out of college. I stared at Noel's well-defined abs as they gyrated from brushing the rainbow beach towel back and forth. It was too soon to touch, let alone push him into the pool again to get an encore. There was a little bulge coming from his trunks, but a free muscle show is nothing to complain about. He laid his towel down and winked at me.
You all right?
I regained composure. Yeah, let's head back. Here's your hoodie and stuff. Noel put on his baggy black hoodie. Why he concealed his chiseled torso like that baffled me, like he didn't even want to be a model for the looks. Perhaps he was more than that. With both of us ready, we strolled up the steps from the pool back to my apartment within a large complex in La Jolla. Ever since dropping out of UC San Diego 2 years ago, a place close enough to it was perfect for a bachelor like me. It was also a mile east of the ocean, but with no easy way to even get to La Jolla shores. A cozy corner kitchen and dining room greeted visitors, all one of them I've had in forever. Noel took a relaxed seat on my tattered hunter green love seat in my living room, resting his feet on the coffee table.
Can I see the picture?
I sat down next to him and imagined crawling my fingers across his back and clutching him on the opposite shoulder, reaching over and letting him see the picture as long as my hand was still in control of the camera.
You crack me up,
he said, giving a polite laugh. So, what do you do for fun?
Fun?
Noel pushed the camera back to me.
Not much time for that, being a graduate student and all.
I twitched. You're a grad student?
Well, part-time, San Diego State. I got my bachelor's in mechanical engineering last fall.
Wow. Not only did he have the body of every man's dreams, but he also had a lot of smarts too. Maybe he knew why different energy colors didn't like each other.
Did you ever go to school, Jason?
Yeah, but I dropped out. I'd rather not go into why, but my friends go to the UC.
Triton boy, huh? Well, no grudge here.
Thanks, man. I patted him on the back.
Hey, Jace.
Noel patted mine in return.
Do you read?
Not really, but I've got this cool photo book I bought online. I scooted to the edge of the couch and slid out a square hardcover book with a glossy sheen from underneath the coffee table, opening it to the first page.
That guy looks a little thin.
Noel pointed to the first model. The twig was thinner than me.
But the lighting's nice.
I'm working on that, man. I turned the page. This guy's my favorite. The 2-page spread depicted 2 images of the same model. A blonde stud wearing a pair of black metallic headphones over his ears like he was a skater punk. In one picture, he was shirtless, and the other showed him in a black hoodie like the one Noel had, only with a red stripe on the bottom.
He looks serious. I'd buy that. Take no chances kind of man.
I smiled. True that.
So when are we going to do stuff like that?
I've got a few shoots planned, just you wait. San Diego was a big place, and any public beach or park proved itself worthy of my camera's lens, especially with a hottie like Noel. He seemed willing to do just about anything, but after today's teaser shoot, I had a plan for something bigger. We continued flipping through the photo book for the rest of the afternoon, admiring the cuteness, hotness, or muscliness of the guys inside. Noel seemed more interested in the technical aspects rather than the eye candy. I'd already studied every photo in there for that. My feast was his famine. Eventually, Noel looked at his phone.
Hey, I've got class in an hour, so I'll need to get going.
He rose from the couch.
Look at some real photography books. They might teach you a thing or 3 about that camera of yours that pictures can't.
He walked out the front door, closing it behind him. That evening, I tinkered on my freeware image editor. I had a name for my agency, but the only thing I could think of was Tribal Culture Studio, or TCS for short. As for that name, it was best not to ask why, but I needed something to put on my small business application. I pulled up the image of Noel and posted it online for a selling price of 99 cents. It was cheap, and I expected for it to suck. Later that night, I got a call from my cousin Tyler while watching the same episode of Mr. Ball's Wacky Adventures on repeat. It must have been an off night for him dancing at the club.
Hey, Jace.
He said in a caring yet surly tone.
How's your new boy toy?
He's not a toy.
You hired him, so yeah, he's your toy? Or have you grown past that childish mentality?
I turned the TV off and stroked my hair with my free hand, applying just enough pressure on my crown to indulge a calming sensation. Noel's going to be my very own joy friend. He brings me joy, and I'll show it to him when I visit you in 2 weeks.
Whatever.
Tyler said as I twirled a strand of my hair.
No fudge pumper in the world's worth a trip to Vegas just to propose a relationship, especially if you've known the ab candy for only 2 weeks.
It was Tyler 101. He said little unless he gave a shit. Then he'd ramble for hours and hours over anything having to do with the price of weed in Colorado.
Look at Uncle Josh, I mean your father. Should I even call the tooked-out tweaker man-child that? He at least dated your pretentious trip of a mother for 6 months before marrying that rainbow-haired druggie.
Don't you insult my mom, she's your aunt, you know. I cringed when I heard my own flesh and blood defaced like that. Sure, my dad was a deadbeat loser, but my mom actually worked for a living, and Ty didn't see reading tarot and providing crystal therapy as legitimate businesses. She takes the LSD to speak to her spirit friends.
Oh my gosh.
I heard Tyler muttering to himself over the phone.
Don't burn the only family you got, Ty. Jace can't help it.
Tyler's words were clear as the San Diego air to me, but I feigned ignorance. Excuse me?
Nothing, Jace. Anyway, I'll see you when you get to Vegas. Bring the candy, the Christmas present, whatever you want to call him if you want. But a fair warning between family. Not everyone is the same inside as they are on the surface. Don't be sold on someone just because you have a crush on him.
I'm certain he's it. He has to be, and when I bring him to see you in Vegas, it'll be the perfect first date. We'll have a photo shoot, a sexy massage session, followed by a hot tub soaking.
I'm gonna go.
Tyler hung up. My cousin had provided me with financial support for over 2 years since leaving college. $3,000 a month was enough to cover rent and living expenses, not to mention some extra for fun and games. Everything was set. I booked a cheap hotel near Ty's place called the Silver Station, where each and every room had its own hot tub. I saw Noel shirtless before, but I wanted to explore him deeper. Only the waiting and trivial platonic growth of Tribal Culture Studio remained. Chapter 2, April 20th, 2017. I took a seat in my usual black chair and called Noel an hour after he got out of his Thursday night class. Hey, you packed up?
Almost.
he said.
What's the point of this trip again?
I want to see my hot go-go dancer cousin, and I had the perfect photo shoot planned for the two of you together. Noel couldn't know my underlying motive. I wanted a boyfriend, and he was going to be it.
I'd rather stay and do it in San Diego. Why? It's more economical. You're paying me 10% of Tribal's profits, and right now, that's about $30 a week. That's not even enough to spend on a hotel room.
Your share's $30 a week. We're really making about $300. I rested my head back against the leather cushion and closed my eyes. A tease sells, doesn't it?
Fine. Only since he's your cousin and we're lucky enough to even have a profit to begin with. What's he look like? Is he a runt like you?
Tyler looks a lot like me, I said, only bigger. We wore the same brownish hairstyle and had the same Gilardian green eyes, only his were darker in both aspects. Where we differed was in muscle definitions. Tyler's pecs bulged out no matter what size shirt he wore, which for every time I saw him was always that same black tee with a blue star in the chest I gave him for Christmas 2 years ago. His arms showed the occasional popping vein. Mine did too, but not as much as his.
Cool, I guess. I'll see you tomorrow.
Noel hung up. The appointed time drew near, and a sleepless night was the only roadblock in my destiny. We left San Diego just before dawn on Friday morning to beat the rush hour traffic. Noel rested his head on the passenger door of my hand-me-down purple sedan, catching a few Z's. I let him sleep while it was dark, with only the street and building lights of Escondido and Temecula to guide the way. It wasn't long afterwards before the sun made a presence in the eastern California sky. Its light shone straight through, making my eyes water and squint like I had no control over them. I swerved a few times, including one ill-planned maneuver just shy of sideswiping a big rig carrying the stinkiest horses I had ever smelled in my life. I had to stop the sun, preferably without waking up pretty boy Lazybones. When I got a free moment, I extended my arm over him, unhooked the shade from the car's ceiling, and swung it towards the window. It was a perfect shot, but it didn't matter. He was awake.
Jason, are we there yet?
He said in a groggy tone, almost with a lisp twice as deep as a normal guy. Oh, sorry to wake you. We're in Riverside.
Can we stop for some coffee?
Noel took out his phone from his pocket and started playing with it. The faint bells and buzzes invaded my ears, drilling the pleasant sounds of the bubblegum radio out of them. I'd rather not stop in the city. Maybe in Barstow.
Barstow.
I could hear Noel tapping on his phone. The buzzing game sounds ceased, but were replaced with the clicks of a fake keyboard grating my nerves with road rage. I raised the car radio's volume to compensate.
That's too far away. Why don't you stop at Cajon Pass?
Where's that? Noel leaned over and showed me his phone's map, almost bumping into my shoulder. Cajon was only 45 minutes away. I was surprised he was willing to wait that long for a cup of coffee. However, he was not willing to say anything else until he got his caffeine fix. He reclined his seat and began his infernal snoring as I drove further down the 215. I got off the freeway at the top of Cajon Pass. I found a gas station where I could fuel up while Sleepyhead got his Joe. I parked in an empty spot next to a pump and stopped the car. Noel stepped out of the car and went inside the store while I fueled up. It was much colder here than I expected. My dinky frame shivered despite me pacing around the pump. Noel returned with 2 drinks, which was odd since I don't remember asking for one. He handed me the smaller one, saying it was hot chocolate. We got back into the car and I turned on the heater before hitting the road again. Noel's coffee was pungent. The crushed beans wafted through my car, curdling the usual mint scent. I didn't know why he liked drinking this stuff. It made me want to puke. But for him, it worked. Noel was a little more talkative as we drove further north into the Mojave Desert. It was mostly chit-chat, but as we approached Barstow, he began to ask me some burning questions.
Why'd you become a photographer?
He asked. I didn't have a straight answer. Well, I did, but I wasn't sure I could tell him the truth. I hired him thinking he'd be the perfect boyfriend, but he couldn't know that, at least not yet. I wanted to do something that made me free. Photography keeps me away from the mill and grind of corporate labor. Plus, it's an easy way to make money. I didn't think he was impressed with my answer. Nevertheless, he continued.
Jason, photography's not a get-rich-quick scheme. You just lucked out with breaking even. But you could have studied it in college. Why did you drop out?
Too structured, and with professors who could never speak English. Hell, the English teachers couldn't speak English.
That's not very nice.
Noel took a sip of his coffee.
Are you sure they didn't just have an accent?
I drank a bit of my hot chocolate. I felt like I scarred my entire mouth when the scalding liquid touched my tongue. I took a few deep breaths while clutching the steering wheel. When I regained composure after swallowing, I replied to Noel's question. I couldn't understand them. How the hell was I supposed to understand the civil rights environment if I had no idea what they were saying? Noel slapped his face repeatedly, probably from me saying something stupid.
Honestly, you shouldn't have dropped out. What major were you?
I didn't have one. My friend Drake wanted me to go into sports medicine so I could be with him, but fuck that. I hated biology.
That doesn't seem like you.
Noel took out his cell phone again and showed me a picture I took of him at Mission Beach near the roller coaster.
I know I just gave you a lot of flack over photography, but this is you. If you weren't decent with a camera, I would have quit on day one. You've got the eye, but we'll work on getting better equipment.
Thanks, man. I gave him a little smile. Noel put his phone in his lap.
But seriously, you should have stayed in school. You could have learned a lot. It was a bastion of knowledge you already paid for, and you threw it all away.
I shrugged his comment off and continued driving. He had nothing more to say at the moment, so I lost myself in the refreshing desert scenery. I imagined the Joshua trees as being tentacles from an ancient sand beast, slain by the Native Americans long before our time. They were littered everywhere, but far enough from the freeway so I wouldn't have to worry about being grabbed by one, provided the beast was still alive. At least they were far more interesting than anything I had seen in the city. As we approached Nevada, the traffic clogged up. A parade of big rigs refused to drive in the designated truck lane, making it difficult to pass. I was drained with fatigue and frustration, so I lugged behind the procession and pulled over to the nearest rest stop to calm down. I shut the car off and handed the keys to Noel while both of us were still seated. You want to drive?
It's your car. You should drive.
Noel handed the keys back to me. I drove all damn day. I spoke with my arms as well as my lips. I'm tired, I want some rest from the road, and all you've done is play games on your phone. Noel opened the car door on his side and rested his feet on the asphalt.
It's not even afternoon, so stop your bitching. We've got an hour until Vegas. You can make it all the way.
Okay, I said, but I need to stretch. Both of us got out of the car and stretched our aching muscles for a few minutes. I doubted it would come from a guy as toned as Noel, but his pretty face defined the word lazy. I'm his boss, so he should really be the one driving, but he entered the car first in the passenger seat just like I thought he would. I took my seat and began the last leg of our journey.
Chapter 3, April 21st, 2017. It was early afternoon when Jason and I arrived in Vegas. Despite being daytime, I could envision what the gaudy strip looked like with all the lights turned on. I imagined the spectrum of colors splashing the skyline and creating a carnival everyone was invited to in the middle of the desert. It would be a rave. Techno-classical instrumentals would fill the air. Music designed by robots and to be entertainment for robots finally had a place to be appreciated by touristy sheep who were probably not robots. I wanted to see it for real tonight after getting situated at the hotel and having some fun. My dreams turned sour as Jason exited onto the eastbound 215. Where are we going? You booked a hotel on the Strip, right?
Dumb recent parking fees. Tyler told me about this place near his apartment where we can park for free.
If you're staying there, wouldn't it be free? Common sense died as soon as Vegas was built. Only the capitalistic pigs running the casinos would charge people to live like charging a fee in order to cover all their other redundant fees.
Ty said everyone on the Strip's charging guests, even if they're staying there.
Figures. There went my plans for an evening on the Strip. I shrugged my shoulders and took in more glamorous sights as Jason traversed the surface streets of Las Vegas, as well as I knew San Diego. You sure your cousin lives here? All these houses look trashed.
He's not exactly in this neighborhood. He lives in an apartment complex near Eastern.
That's nice. The name of the street was trivial. It could have been the solution to a thermo problem, and it would have made as much sense. My entire body was stiff from the long drive. 15 minutes later, Jason and I arrived at the Silver Station Hotel. The exterior was a cash grab. A giant sign coming straight from the 70s advertised complimentary hot tubs in every suite. I had never seen a room with a hot tub inside of it before. and I didn't expect to see one in an off-strip locale. The outside showed off the 19th century train-like theme through murals of locomotives, legendary or otherwise, etched and painted onto the wooden plank walls. As the car stopped, I unbuckled myself and forced the passenger door open without looking. It swung open, but refused to budge any further after I heard a scraping sound coming from the edge. I turned my head and saw a semi towering over Jason's car.
Come on, Noel, get out.
He said. His side of the car opened to the stale Las Vegas air and nothing else. I squeezed my figure between the car and the semi. Anyone weighing 20 pounds more than me would never have fit through Clunker Canyon. I stopped Jason as he opened the trunk, staring directly into his eyes as I spoke. Look at this gargantuan parking lot. How many cars are in it? Jason pointed towards my luggage in the trunk. Any good host would take all of it out for me.
A few, why?
Why? Cars are like people. I reached into the trunk and took out my suitcase. They need space, and your parking job didn't impress me one bit.
It's only temporary. Look, I need to talk to Ty. He needs me. I'll see you later.
Okay? Why did Tyler need him right now? Jason plopped himself back into the driver's seat and jetted off, almost running me over. What the fuck was wrong with this kid? Of course, he had to think of his cousin first instead of the guy he brought with. Maybe it was an emergency, but to leave me high and dry alone in a foreign state was going too far. I wanted an explanation, and Jason was going to give me one or take me home. I preferred the latter. After calming down, it was time to go inside the colossal casino and check in. I stepped through the hotel's tinted glass doors and found myself in a pure maze only a madman could design. Nothing looked elegant. It was the death of fashion as I traveled through the cold and sterile concrete hallways toward the registration desk. There were no windows, no mirrors, not even a single picture on the wall. I've seen maintenance tunnels with better decorations. The odious stench of cigarette butts oozed from the air vents. I held my breath for a few steps, but had to take a deep breath once every 10 seconds. It took forever to reach the other side. As I approached the casino proper, what I saw was the exact opposite. To me, this was Vegas. The concrete death blossomed into carpets and chandeliers of life that complemented the spectrums of slots lined up perfectly, like an OCD child lining up his favorite toys. I wish I could say the same of their themes. Someone thought tomatoes and chocolate went together. It was an ordered labyrinth, one I could easily cross to get to the bell desk. I wanted to stop and gamble, but didn't. I followed the overhead signs in the casino to the hotel lobby. The check-in counter was solid marble, etched with laces of gold. I'd like to check in, I said, just before handing my ID and credit card to the 40-something lady at the bell desk.
Thank you, Mr. Geiger.
She said.
You look handsome today.
Thanks, ma'am. She processed my information and gave me 2 keys. I figured Jason should at least get one. After all, he paid for this trip.
You're in room 401. Take the elevators to your left and have a nice day.
The 4th floor? She wanted to put Jason and me on a floor with seemingly nothing but a brick wall and garbage dumpsters to look at below. Was there anything on a higher floor? I wanted to see the strip all lit up.
I'm sorry, sir. Our basic spa rooms are only on the bottom floors. I'd upgrade you, but I'm afraid all of our deluxe spa rooms are already booked.
I see then. I took my keys and walked towards the elevators. Before I could show my key to the security guard, Jason texted me.
On my way to hotel. Be there in 30.
I figured I'd wait. I found a Western bar in the heart of the casino. The bar itself looped in a full circle underneath another circle of ceiling lamps decorated with longhorns with a 3rd ring of stools on the outside. Its location was perfect, not too far from the elevators. The only empty seat I saw was next to a shit-faced and corpulent lady with her head down. I sucked in my stomach and took a seat next to her.
Hey, pretty boy.
The bubbly-looking bartender strutted toward me and gave me a wink.
Can I get you a cold beer or perhaps something else, sweetie?
I'll have a mimosa, please. I gave her a wink back and shelled out $12 up front. She went to the other side of the bar to mix my drink. She stayed a little while after returning with my drink.
So what do you do?
I'm a college student.
You look too good to be a nerd. You sure you're not a model? You definitely look like one.
You got me. I chuckled a bit. I didn't realize my pecs burst through my hoodie like that. Yeah, I'm a swimsuit model too. You don't look half bad yourself.
Thank you.
Her grin sparkled under the lamp.
So, do you have a girlfriend, sweet thing?
Excuse me? There was always that assumption. I didn't want to wear a pink shirt saying, "I'm gay" on it every single day. Perhaps a plain pink shirt, but nothing that explicit.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Maybe this lady next to you's your girlfriend, huh?
I like guys. I didn't want to say that, but even in this day and age, everyone assumed you were straight. The fact that Jason was explicitly looking for gay men was the sole reason I picked TCS over any other agency in San Diego. Sure, he was a douche, but douchebags can be fixed. It just took time and effort.
Hey!
I heard a southern drawling shout coming from behind me.
You stay away from my wife.
I turned around and looked straight in the eyes of a balding old cowboy missing his hat. He charged toward me, but slid to his right at the last second. He bear-hugged his wife by the paunch and slung her drunk ass over his burly shoulders. Maybe he was drunk too. Neither he nor his wife said anything as he carried her through the casino and back to the elevators. Maybe it was my time to head back myself. I finished my mimosa and lugged my suitcase to a nearby bench and waited for Jason. 10 minutes later, Jason arrived, wheeling in his enormous suitcase with at least 2 duffel bags attached to the handle. "Where the fuck were you?" I said. "And you brought all that shit for a 2-night stay?" Jason shrugged.
I really tried to travel light. Cameras, swimsuits, bunny food, I need it all.
I ignored the bunny food comment. That suitcase is bigger than you are. A family of 4 could live in that.
Hey, I didn't insult your luggage, so let's get to our room.
I gave Jason his key before walking towards the elevators. He grunted and broke a sweat trying to lug his junk inside. Once again, I had to help muscle his stuff.
Hey, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Jason triggered the 4 button at least 10 times.
Close it, close it, close it, close it.
It's going to close on its own. The doors closed and we rode in silence to the 4th floor. As the doors slid open, we found ourselves in a bleak hallway that never saw a maid in its life. There was no sense of art, no sense of creativity, and a fashion sense that reminded me of a brown Sparta. It was obvious where the budget went in this dump of a hotel, and it certainly didn't go here. The hotel room doors battered from years of abuse from the customers. Jason followed me down the hall toward our room, which, of course, was located at the end of Oblivion. He stayed behind at first, but after he got tired of the repetitive pattern of doors and walls, he dropped his shit and ran like a toddler looking for the candy jar. That ungrateful bastard. Just because I'm bigger than him doesn't mean he can expect me to carry his stuff in addition to mine. Not wanting to cause a scene, I picked up his stuff and attached it to my own, wheeling it down the hall. I stepped through the hotel room door, which at least Jason held open for me. The inside of the room was not much different, not that I was expecting anything better. The taupe colors of the hallways transitioned into darker shades of brown painted on the walls and mismatched tan carpeting. The room reeked of pot and cigarettes as if the previous occupants did both at the exact same time. It was chilly, but not too unbearable. The black hot tub in the front corner stuck out from the rest of the scenery. None of the furniture went together, a piecemeal bedroom set with dark wood for the bed frame and light plastic nightstands. There was one king-sized bed next to the back wall. Jason threw himself onto the bed. Its frame creaked and snapped after his pounce. "Only one bed?" I said. "Then where am I going to sleep?" Jason flipped himself over.
We're sleeping together, silly. I want to get to know you really well.
"Okay then," I said, saving face. "Here's your stuff." I threw Jason's luggage right at him, startling the twink right off the bed. Was he honestly expecting me to sleep with him? My job description was to pose in skimpy swimsuits and sell photos online, not to have sex with a stranger. If I wanted that, I would have been a man whore on the deep web.
Ow, that freaking hurt.
Sorry, but next time, carry your own shit. I took off my hoodie, folded it, and set it neatly on the dresser. If there was anything that looked right in this room, that would be it. I took a seat on one of the cheap dorm-like chairs in the back corner of the room, facing the door. "So, what are we going to do now?"
I want a hot tub.
This couldn't be real. Was I in Vegas or in a cheap 90s gay porno? Whatever, I'm going downstairs to play some blackjack.
But I'll be lonely if you leave. The casino's an evil place, and if you go there, the slot machines will come to life, mug you, and walk off with your money. You've got to at least stay here.
Jason took off all of his clothes save his boxers designed with a childlike red ball on them and turned the water on for the hot tub. If he wasn't going to show me Vegas, maybe I would have to show myself. The problem was, I didn't have a car, and Jason shifted his eyes between his car keys and myself. On second thought, maybe I shouldn't gamble. "You know what, Jace?" I said. "I think I'll just read a bit." I got up and took my fantasy book out of my suitcase and continued from where I last left off. The battle by Dragon's Bay was a far more interesting subject than the battle of getting me in the hot tub.
Noel?
I ignored him.
Noli, noli, noli.
Shit, he started singing. A pop artist he was not.
Get on in, Harry, Harry, Harry.
No, I said. Can't you see I'm trying to read here? Jason pointed to me and then himself.
I'm lonely in here, and there's room for two.
What part of no don't you understand? The casino beckoned once again. I got up and started strolling towards the door, book still in hand.
Oh, but I've got a little story for you. There was this one guy who had an irrational fear of hot tubs, and he was about to get
All right, fine. My head throbbed as I slammed my novel onto the carpet, creasing the pages. I'll get in just to get you to shut up. I took out my swimsuit from the suitcase and stepped inside the bathroom. It was standard issue, but did not blend well with the rest of the suite. It was cramped, and I was surprised that it was meant to be shared with someone else. Only one person could fit in here, and only if they were maybe Jason-sized. I stripped down slowly, making sure my everyday clothes were kept neat and clean. That was easier said than done with the closing-in walls wanting to grab my body despite being in place. I put on my pink and black grunge-style swim trunks and walked out of the bathroom, carrying my folded dirty laundry out with me. I entered the hot tub slowly. I started with just my left foot. Wow, was that water hot. How the hell was Jason enjoying this? I slipped deeper in after a few minutes, reaching the bottom with the water's surface at waist height. It still felt hot to me, but I got used to it, and I took a seat next to my loony boss.
Hi, Jason here. As I said during my reading of Chapter 1, certain scenes in TCS, the studio cannot be read to the general YouTube audience due to certain content that happens within them. The first half of Chapter 4 contains one such scene. Therefore, it must be skipped and I will summarize it to the best of my ability. Noel and I enjoy each other's company in an intimate way in the hotel room's hot tub, and he establishes a few ground rules for me as for what I can do with him. After relieving some stress, we decide to have a nice chat within the tub, and this will be where we continue the story from. Chapter 4, April 21st, 2017. How'd you get into fitness? Noel didn't say anything at first, but I could tell he was thinking of an answer. It's okay if you don't want to answer that,
I wanted to set an example.
he said.
Most of my family is obese, and I didn't want to end up like them. Could you imagine yourself growing up in a poverty-wrecked family with 3 children where the parents think fast food is a gourmet dinner? I couldn't stand that.
I flipped myself back to his side of the hot tub and stroked his chest once more. You're already setting an example. I'm glad you became a model and not something manly like a soldier.
Thanks, Jason.
Noel gave a little smile and a wink.
That means a lot to me. Sure, I could try and fight in wars, or smack a hammer on a construction crew, but what would that prove? Also, modeling helps me fund grad school.
Let me guess, no money and you're on the streets? Noel nudged me to let go of him as he started to get up.
I don't want to talk about it. Listen, it's getting a little late. I think I'm going to get some sleep.
Are you going to sleep on the floor?
I don't know.
Noel got out of the hot tub and checked the time on his phone. It was only 7 o'clock at night.
It's not as late as I thought. Maybe we should go downstairs and gamble a bit? After all, I did what you wanted, so maybe we should gamble together?
You go on ahead. I'll stay here and get some more suds. Noel went back into the bathroom to change. A few minutes later, he came out wearing his normal clothes again. He waved towards me and then left the room. That was the last I saw of Noel that night. I spent the rest of the evening in the hotel room. I started getting pruny after soaking in the tub for a while, so I got out and changed back into my street clothes. I had a few snack bars for dinner that I packed in there, and then I fell onto the bed supine, feeling exhausted over the day's drive and unexpected massage session. I blacked out as the hotel room's lights stayed on. I stood in front of Noel underneath a blistering bright blue sky. Both of us were nude, about 5 feet away from each other in an endless expanse of sandy desert with no visible mountains or landmarks to be seen, and not even a drop of water to drink. Noel stood lifeless yet erect. His eyes were closed and his hair blew with the searing winds. I plodded through the silty sand and touched my model. I placed my hand on his abs, holding them for a few seconds. He did not flinch even as a ticklish laugh. As I pressed harder, Noel disintegrated into glittery pink stardust. The desert sands absorbed the pile of dust and shifted the formless speckles underneath my feet. I turned myself around and saw the pink stardust transform itself into a green, almost lime color. It formed into another man with no face. The new figure sparkled excess green stardust from his perfect skin. He resembled Noel, but with more muscle. The bright blue sky blackened into a dreadful night as the sun above imploded upon itself. I shrieked. The sand beneath my feet swallowed me up to my knees. The green-dusted man reached out for me, but I didn't grab his arm. I wanted the pink back, not the unfamiliar green. The faceless green figure dispersed into a formless cloud of purple stardust and enveloped my body in eternal darkness. As my mind's eye faded into black, my real eyes awoke to the thumping of the mattress. The lamp I left on was off. The real Noel slumbered next to me, laying on his stomach. His body heat channeled into my skin despite him lying motionless, unable to even twitch a closed eyelid. I had trouble falling back to sleep. The dream was still fresh in my head. Who was the faceless man of green stardust? Was he the true boyfriend? It couldn't be. I had my real boyfriend lying next to me. I rolled myself on top of his back to make full contact. His skin felt soft yet tense. Noel didn't move a muscle. He must have had more than a few drinks at one of the bars downstairs. If only he slept on his back, it would have been perfect. I closed my eyes. My rest was bliss for only a moment. I felt a twitch, a sting in my back. The beast of a model tossed in the bed, shaking me off of him like I was a parasite. Once again, I felt cold and alone. There was nothing left to do until morning. I lay in the hotel bed for the rest of the night. Chapter 5. April 22nd, 2017. I woke up the next morning to a text message from Tyler.
Meet me at Sunset Park at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Also, bring your friend with.
I didn't want to text Ty back. He's probably sleeping right now from all that dancing at the club. I figured Noah wanted to sleep in as well after last night's fun, so I got dressed, put on my camera bag, and went downstairs to the casino. This was my first time gambling. I figured I'd give it a try. I scoped the slots until I found one with a shirtless guy that looked like Drake, but with a little more muscle and an 8-pack instead of the 6-pack that Drake had. He was even holding a green version of Drake's yellow surfboard with the letters KZK written in a skater style along the broad side of the board. There was a tag above the machine telling me it was a new edition. I took a seat and glanced over the display. It wanted nickels, but that was too much for me. I switched the machine to pennies and put in a 20. I pressed the circular button on the right side.
Good luck, dude.
The machine spoke to me, following the speech with a catchy surfer rock song. The digital reels stopped one at a time, blasting a trumpet every time a reel stopped until all 5 reels stood motionless.
Aw, wipeout, dude.
The game was over. No bright lights, no winning pay lines, and 50 cents down the drain. I tried again, and once again, nothing. Why do people do this? It was obviously a rigged machine to grab people's money quickly, but it was so addicting. I spent most of the 20 after a few more bets, winning some, but never higher than my bet. As I pressed the spin button for the last time, I got a call from Noel.
Where are you?
Downstairs in the casino. Look for a machine with a blonde surfer on it. There were no other machines like this one close enough to the elevators for Noel to find.
Stay where you're at. I'll meet you down there.
I stayed at the machine while keeping the rest of the cash inside of it. The surfer's abdominal muscles looked too toned to be real. Who was this guy? I saw a signature on the bottom of the board, but could only make out a capital R and a capital K. It didn't really matter since he was a celebrity I would never see in 100 years. As I tilted my head up to scope out the guy's pecs, I felt a familiar tapping on my shoulder. Noel stood behind me.
What exactly are we doing today?
He said.
I thought we had a photo shoot to do.
That's this afternoon. Quit your bitching, man. I turned back around and pressed the cash out button on the surfer machine, withdrawing a ticket worth 30 paltry cents from it.
Did you win anything?
No, man. I handed the ticket to Noel and watched as he glanced it over.
30 cents? Wow, you really suck. I won around $300 at the tables last night, but honestly, I'm sick of gambling already. Where's this photo shoot at?
Noel handed my ticket back to me as I put on my camera bag. It's at Sunset Park. I reached for my keys, but didn't feel them in the pocket where they belonged. Wait here, man. I forgot something in the room. I started walking back towards the elevators, but Noel stopped me.
Were you looking for these?
Noel handed me the keys.
Learn to clean up your crap once in a while. I'm surprised that I didn't trip over your wet boxers this morning.
I brought up my Maps app and searched for Sunset Park. It was a little bit south of here, but too far to walk. We went back to the hotel's parking lot and left. Noel and I found an empty parking space next to a softball diamond towards the northern end of the park. There were few spots open as several teams of kids and their soccer moms scurried for spaces. We got out and scoped for a spot to set up. On the other side of a small grove of desert flora lay an open grassy field on the northeastern shore of a central pond. Groups of kids frolicked and played in the trees nearby. We found Tyler just east of the field sitting underneath a red and yellow cloth arbor at a precast concrete table, facing the pond. He had his head down, preoccupied with something on his cell phone.
That's your cousin?
Noel's eyes widened as we approached him. Tyler looked up and noticed us. He got up and started walking towards Noel and me. "Hey, Ty," I waved towards him. He gave a little nod. When he was within arm's reach, I continued. "Ty, this is my model, Noel." Noel reached out towards Tyler to shake his hand.
Nice meeting you, Tyler.
Tyler stepped back.
Don't touch me, fucker. What are you, fucking 5?
Not the friendly type, I see. And you're a stripper, right?
Go-go dancer. And you should shut up about that before the pint-sized lulz cows out here grow up to be sluts.
I whistled at both of them to prevent them from killing each other. "Noel, a word?"
What's this about?
I dragged Noel to the arbor. Here's the deal. Ty's not the social type. There's some stuff with him, and most of it's Gilardi business.
Saying fuck you is not a greeting no matter who you are.
Just ignore that. Also, don't touch him, he hates it. In recent years, only I've been able to get away with it. He doesn't see me as a threat compared to his clientele. Unlike the customers, I didn't have to stuff a 5 in his Speedo in order to feel his abs.
Why?
I told you Gilardi business, now are we clear? Noel nodded, then we returned to where Tyler was. "Okay, guys, why don't you two lose the shirts and stand over by the pond?" Noel and Tyler did as I asked, with my cousin throwing his shirt on top of my head. "That's good." Noel and Tyler stopped right in front of the pond. I whipped out my camera and took a few quick snaps of them simply standing there posing freely. After 3 pictures, it was time for a more controlled approach. "Okay, face in and give each other a friendly little air hug." Noel and Tyler faced each other, but something didn't feel right to me. They were about the same height, but Tyler had more muscle mass. It didn't feel balanced. My finger slipped and pressed the shutter, causing the image to appear on the LCD screen. I showed it to them. It turned out better, but was still missing something. It needed a picture of yours truly. "Ty, can you come over here?" I asked, handing out the camera to him. "I want a pic of Noel and me." Tyler took the camera and stood where I was. I stood next to Noel, pressing my hand against his chest with my other arm around his back. He did the same with me, but kept one arm off to the side. He smiled for the camera while I faked a smooch like I was about to kiss his cheek.
3, 2, 1.
Tyler said, as he pressed the shutter. I faced the camera this time, grinning and holding the same pose as before, and saw my cousin taking a second picture. Tyler took 2 more sets before Noel had enough and nudged me to let go of him. "Okay, guys, shirts on." I went back to the car to drop off my camera bag. When I got back, I found Noel and Tyler sitting at the picnic area arguing. I hid behind a nearby tree just big enough to conceal my skinny body. The louder voice came from Noel.
You don't know come from coconut butter.
That sounded like a Tylerism.
Have you even been in a relationship or even a fuck date with someone besides yourself?
You're calling me a narcissist, you inconceivable idiot? I just met you, and you're already judging me. Go back to your fucking nightclub, asshole.
I heard a sound like a smack to the face.
Fuck you!
Don't you dare hit me like that.
I heard another smack, this one much louder. Tyler squealed in pain.
When Jason gets back, I'll tell him to file a restraining order on your ass.
We're fucking family. He'll never keep me away.
You're so dense, you've probably forgotten my name.
Enough was enough. I emerged from underneath the tree and made my presence known. "Stop!" I clasped Tyler in front of his neck and pushed him away from Noel. Tyler would never hurt me despite being double my size, The boiling rage in his face quelled down the harder I pressed onto him. "We're not here to fight. Tyler, sit right there." Keeping my hand on Tyler's neck to control him, I pointed towards a bench on the other side of the arbor with my free hand. "Noel, stay here." I released Tyler as he took his seat and faced away from us. Noel sat across from me. He had a few visible injuries and bruises from Tyler's blows to the face.
What's his problem?
Noel asked, making sure Tyler couldn't hear us. This whole trip was a problem. I didn't think he would act like this. I don't know what to say. Ty's normally a nice guy, or at least he is to me. I'm sorry I had to bring that horrible news to you, but...
Enough, Jason.
Noel pounded the table with both hands.
Are you even listening to yourself right now? None of what you're saying this entire trip has made any sense.
He stared right at me, articulating every syllable to make sure I could clearly hear him.
Why did you bring me on this trip? You could have done this shit in SD.
Tyler lives here.
Forget about him. Why did you bring me?
This wasn't the ideal time. I really wanted to confess my love for him and make him mine, but I had to think of an answer and think of it quick. I don't know how to say this, but I love you, Noel.
What? You love me?
Noel's face seethed with anger.
What the fuck? Did you honestly think that bringing me all the way to Vegas on a trip you planned for yourself would win me over?
Noel smacked me hard in the face. I jumped back. "What's your problem, man?"
Get a clue, Jason.
Noel shoved me again, knocking me onto the concrete.
This whole trip, you've been nothing but a self-centered, rude, callous, and insensitive asshole.
Tyler interrupted, approaching us and smacking him the same way Noel did to me, knocking him sideways onto the bench.
Don't you ever hit Jason again, or I'll fucking call Metro on you, pretty boy.
Noel got up and took a deep breath.
You're dumber than I thought. Cops will arrest you first.
He socked Tyler in the shoulder, but to no avail. Tyler stood like the fortified giant he was. Tyler struck back. His fist pounded Noel's face. Before Noel could return the favor, Tyler delivered another punch. Noel reached for my cousin's shirt and tugged it. He managed to rip the bottom seam, exposing some of Tyler's abs once more.
You fucking bitch!
Tyler said as he grasped the ripped part of his blue-starred shirt.
That was my favorite shirt, ass cow.
Tyler kicked Noel right in the groin. Noel squealed in pain as he collapsed on the edge of the concrete arbor. I rushed over and helped Noel up.
Take me home, Jason,
he said.
You brought me into this mess, and you're going to clean it up.
I'll start the car. Goodbye, Tyler. I left the arbor and walked towards my car with Noel following, just as the sun was beginning to go down. Before I could reach my car, Tyler latched onto my shoulder and forced me around.
You, now?
He pointed back to the arbor we were at. We sat at the same bench.
What the fuck were you thinking?
Excuse me?
This shit's gone on long enough.
I don't need this, Ty. I'm going home with Noel.
Listen to me.
Tyler clasped my arm, preventing me from escaping.
You've been living on your own for 2 years. You went to college, dropped out for no fucking reason, and I've been nice enough to keep you from being one of those weed junkies downtown like your father. But even I have my limits. You live in La Jolla, in a nice apartment, and have you earned it? Hell no. If we weren't related, you'd be sucking cum from a fire hose in Hillcrest right now.
What are you trying to say, Ty? A tear formed up in my eye.
You've started a failure of a business, so it's time for you to learn how to adult for once and spend your own money instead of mooching off me. It's not worth it to send you $3,000 a month for you to sit on your ass and fap to a bunch of muscle dudes.
Then you want me to pay you back? I sniffled.
$10,000 by Christmas. It's not much, but it's a start.
$10,000? How was I going to pay that back? Tyler sent me the money ever since I dropped out of college as a way to repay the way he treated me in the past. Considering my rent was $1,800 a month, even with Cal grants, $1,200 a month was barely enough for spending money and a car payment. You're shitting me, right? There's no way I can pay that.
Use your head for once, Jace.
He couldn't be serious. Did this mean I would have to apply for the dreaded J word? That I would have to break my delicate back for someone else's gains and not get to bounce around like Mr. Ball on my favorite show with all his happy-go-lucky friends? I'm sorry, Tyler, I can't do it. I burst into tears, mostly from the pain caused by Tyler's deathly grip.
Then pay $30,000 then. The more you bitch, the higher the price.
My tears multiplied, forming a puddle on the table.
You know what? If you're going to cry over this shit, you might as well do it in San Diego.
Tyler let go of my arm. I dashed back to the car and got inside, allowing Noel to enter on the passenger side. Noel and I headed back towards the hotel. We'll grab our stuff, then go home. I'm sure you'll at least want your belongings.
Whatever.
Noel coughed to clear his throat.
Let's get our shit and pray to God I don't enter Nevada again, so help me God you'll fucking die.
Whoa, he was pissed. I double-timed it to the hotel room and gathered up my luggage. Noel did the same without a single word between the two of us. I checked out as soon as I got back to the reception using the express checkout kiosk, and before we knew it, we were back on Interstate 15 and on our way back to California. Noel spent the car ride home glued to his cell phone. The pings and dings drilled into my ears like he was playing a pinball space shooter game. Neither one of us spoke a word through the Mojave Desert, not even as I stopped for gas and another refreshing cup of cocoa. The darkness in the sky matched the darkness in my heart. First Justin, Mom and Dad, and now even Tyler. Would there be a person to appreciate me for who I was? All I wanted was someone.
Chapter 6. April 22nd, 2017. What a wasted weekend. As we left Vegas along the 15, I looked out my window to see the Strip lit up in all its glory. An immaculate sight worthy of a mandatory tourist picture, and exactly as I imagined it. The perceived spectrum became real, but with fewer pinks and more reds and greens. A Christmas in April, and only for the naughty. The spectacular view didn't make up for my shitty day, but was one less thing to see before I died. I took a snapshot of it with my phone, but it needed a filter. Perhaps a somber one to remember how I was played by a relative stranger whom I barely knew before this ill-fated voyage. Digital gray and dreary clouds created by my phone's magic glorified the mood, a perfect representation of the entropic journey. It wasn't all bad. It's not every week where you get a relatively free trip to Vegas, but just because something's free doesn't mean it's worth it. I sat quietly in the passenger seat of Jason's car with nothing but darkness to look at. He's not a bad person, but I didn't want to be romantically involved with him, or at least not yet. Maybe this trip was an eye-opener for me as well as it was for him. After all, we're human, and we err like there's no tomorrow to do it. Honestly, I was grateful that he at least stopped by the hotel to check out and grab our luggage before it got lost in the cleaners of time. To make the best of the trip, I pulled out my phone as we crossed into California. Jason was in no position to be any entertainment, and with my earbuds wrapped around my ears, I blared the most thought-provoking music out there, progressive rock. The music was suitable listening, sufficient enough for me to do some advanced kinematics homework. A 5-hour drive was more than enough time for me to answer 2 questions Professor Hanamura assigned over the weekend. Question 1. A car driven by Joe accelerates at a constant rate from 0 to 80 miles per hour in 30 seconds as it travels along Interstate 15 from Las Vegas to San Diego, a distance of 332 miles. How long until it reaches another car driven by Nate traveling at a constant velocity of 60 miles per hour traveling the same distance and leaving 2 hours before? Which city will the 2 cars meet? Ah, hell no. I wasn't answering that shit. Even Hanamura cursed me on this trip. Maybe the other question would be better. Question 2. A stream of water enters a hot tub at a constant velocity of... Good fucking God. Virtual pinball would be better than this. That homework assignment could die in a fire, and Hanamura with it. Watanabe was bad enough, and I had her class on Monday night. I fired up the pinball game and cried on the inside. Professor Hanako Watanabe paced in front of the lecture hall, pointing her laser at the overhead screen dangling over the stock linoleum floor. Her obesity and thinning curly hair repulsed even the ugliest guys from visiting her office hours.
Today,
She said in a squeaky voice.
we will be continuing our discussion on torsion of simple square shafts.
She switched slides. Each one was the exact same style. Every aspect of her class, including her fashion sense, resisted change.
Consider the picture you see on the slide. In your head, imagine twisting this beam in a clockwise direction. Now, what 2 primary factors should you consider when determining the amount of torsional torque that the beam must endure before failure?
I heard her words, but I didn't listen. I stared at the milky yellow slide depicting a lemon-yellow square beam. It would have caught my attention better if it was animated. A student 3 rows ahead of me raised her hand.
the polar moment of inertia and the shear modulus.
Excellent.
The professor switched slides again, the new one presenting a formula in all black lettering.
The amount of torsion, T, is determined with two primary factors, J and G. You also need the length L and
J and G. JG, Jason Gilardi. The guy never left my head. He was a little creepy, but his innocent face doused my thoughts. I couldn't let the man-child control me. He needed me, and I hurt his feelings. Jason sounded like he had never been in a relationship with anyone besides his family, and I wasn't even sure about that. That ogre Tyler colored my perception enough. Was his whole family like that?
Mr. Geiger,
The professor shot her laser pointer in my face.
perhaps you would like to tell the class about the purpose of the shear modulus, or are you too tired to even listen?
She could have blinded me with that red dot. It involves the shear and the strength.
Your sloth-like presence is revolting.
Everyone else snickered at her remark as I hung my head in shame.
The other students will make better engineers than you. Attention, class.
She spoke louder.
If you cannot understand the shear modulus, nor the moduli of elasticity, toughness, or resilience like Mr. Geiger here, then you should not be an engineer.
She pointed her laser at my face again, shaking it to get my attention.
Now, class, and Mr. Geiger, as most of you know from Hooke's law, the shear modulus measures the absolute stiffness of the material while exposed to shear forces and is expressed.
I never liked engineering. My parents forced me into it like it was the family business. My father and mother were both engineers, the latter a pioneer in the field. My older sister went into engineering, and she married one too. Modeling made so much more, and Jason paid me well. TCS made enough money to stay afloat, and we gained a few fans. I doodled in my notebook to pass the time. My drawings resembled a square beam like the one presented on the slide over Jason's head. He had to be drawn like a cartoon. I added 3 motion lines above the beam. The material was insignificant for the time being. If he hit on me again, steel. If he showed respect, styrofoam. Either way, Jason deserved a beating for the way he treated me in Vegas, but I was willing to give him another chance. Class ended at the top of the hour. I drove home and lounged in my living room, lying arms out on the floor. He wasn't worth a call today. Next month. Not today.
Chapter 7. May 20th, 2017. I lay in my bed on a Saturday morning, achy and unable to move. All my work with Noel gone. I needed to start over. I didn't want to give up without a fight. Despite my pain from last night's restless sleep, I crawled out of bed and went straight to the computer. I pulled up my ad for TCS and made a few changes to the deadlines and the artwork. The biggest change involved replacing my stock Tyler photo with one I took of Noel. Before I could post it, I got a call.
Hey, Jason.
It was Noel.
Look, I wanted to apologize for what I said, and my behavior in Vegas wasn't the best.
A single tear slithered down my nose. Yeah, I shouldn't have taken you there, and I'm really sorry for dragging you into this mess. Both of our lives would have been better if we hadn't even met.
Jason, cut the crap. I'll still model for you, but here's a piece of advice. Don't go yapping up the wrong tree. If you're looking for a boyfriend, then maybe go to a bar, look online, but look for a boyfriend. If you want a model, then look for a model. You can't be deceptive like that and expect a guy to fall for it.
I wiped my eyes. So, any place to start?
You're on your own there. We can be friends and I'll still model for you. But if you want a boyfriend that badly, you'll have to look for one yourself.
I sniffled. Okay then, I'll see you sometime next week.
Yeah, man. Before I go, can I get Tyler's number? I want to apologize to him too.
It's 702-555-3107.
Thank you.
Noel hung up. I still had him, but I needed someone else too. I'd call Tyler, but he wouldn't know love if it smacked him in his privates with a jerk circle session afterward. I deleted the edited TCS advertisement and gave Drake a call instead. Hey, you free?
Yeah, what's up?
He said in his stoner-like voice. Can we meet at Price?
Yeah, bro, what time?
Today?
Well, I was going to go to do some studying in Geisel, but hey, a chat won't take too long. I'll see you when you get here.
Okay, I'll meet you on the second floor. I hung up. Drake was a well-built man himself. Half Hawaiian on his mother's side, he was the athletic type, and the second-best water polo player on the university's team after his boyfriend, Captain Gage Carson, the rich hunk who breathes water polo like we do air. I never met the guy, but from what Drake told me, not only was he the Triton's best player, but also the hottest. I left my apartment complex and traveled north about half a mile before setting foot at UCSD. The eucalyptus trees infesting campus provided ample shade from the baking sun, but no protection from the tree's scent enhanced by the humidity. Drenched in sweat, I took the path north to Geisel. It was the easiest way to Price. The first defining feature I saw from the Price Center's west side was its multi-tiered waterfall formation, flowing from the outside in. The lounge was on the east side, so I had to go through the whole student union to meet up with Drake. I walked down the miniature flights of steps, parallel to the tiered waterfalls, and walked inside. The bustling and rowdy queues for food greeted me as I passed through the sliding glass doors. I found myself in a silvery metal jungle of square tables and crisscross beams. Several posters and PSAs lined the railings above, some of them demotivating the motivators and others liberating the liberators. I walked up the metal steps in the central atrium and found Drake waiting on the second-floor lounge.
Come on, Jace, let's sit down,
he said, pointing to two oversized brown and tan couches facing each other against the stucco wall, and in front of a corkboard containing more demotivators. Both of us faced across from each other, sitting on separate couches. The cushions had seen better days. Beads of sweat formed from Drake's platinum blonde locks, with a few more coming from the dimples of his cheeks. His usual longboard and preferred method of traveling campus was absent. He had jogged upstairs from class, carrying his usual load of textbooks on his back. "How do you do it?" I asked as he wiped his face with a cloth in his pocket.
Do what, bro?
Drake stared into my eyes with a look of confusion. "How'd you get a guy to like you?"
You still don't know, Jace?
Drake put his palm to his own face. "Oh, I know." I sprang off the couch. "I'll plot posters here on campus looking for boyfriend-free guys."
You can't just do that, bro, and expect to get laid. That's kid shit. You want to know what to do? Well, bro, I've got you covered, man.
Why don't you just tell me how you met Gage?
The captain's simple, Jace. Talk to him about polo, and he'll be wrapped around your finger.
How does that help? I've got this model working for me named Noel, but he doesn't want to date me, and he doesn't know anything about water polo.
Plenty of fish in the sea, bro. Ever go to Hillcrest?
I knew about Hillcrest, but it was so far out of the way for me. It was the definitive gay community in town, but I had no reason to go there. Other than Drake, I had never met any other gay guys besides Noel. Even in high school, every guy was straight, or said they were. Still, it was worth a shot. I've never been there. Know any places?
Hold on a sec.
Drake got up from the couch and took out a spiral notebook from his backpack. He tore out a blank page from the middle and began to draw an unscaled map. He rambled on and on over pointless bar names that I would forget unless he wrote them down.
I'd pick this one if you really want a good time, or maybe you wanted something like this.
Drake constantly switched frames of reference with his pen. His speech didn't line up at all with what location he pointed at on the paper. He was quick at writing places down, but his handwriting sucked. Which one's the best for me to meet, guys? That's all I want to know.
Just go here.
Drake pointed towards a bar near the middle of the map. The name of the place was too illegible for me, but Drake spoke like he knew the place like the back of his hand. Thanks, man. I started to get up.
But seriously, Jason, I wasn't done, bro. Sit back down. Can I ask you something else?
Yeah?
I've seen your website, and your photos need a lot of work. That Noel guy you hired is totally hot, but I think you need to work on your lighting skills.
How so? I scratched my head.
Well, bro, I think I know a guy who could help. Dustin Walker, he's one of my polo buddies, and he's in a band, Air Force Trauma or something like that. Anyway, he's posed for a few photo books and stuff, nothing national or anything.
Can I meet him? Sure, he was a rock star, but they were models in their own way. Having a body like Noel's would have been a bonus. Less work for me.
Come watch one of our water polo games, bro. If you show up, I'll be sure to hook you too.
I nodded and gave Drake a pretty, almost cartoonish smile. He was going to be disappointed. Even a sportsphobe like me knew water polo was a fall sport. The first game wouldn't be for 3 more months.
A fair warning, Jace, the guy's straight and hitched, so you can't have him.
I sighed. Then again, not every potential hottie was gay. I couldn't afford to wait 3 months for a stupid game to meet Dustin. Any way to meet him sooner?
Sorry, bro, can't help you there. We don't hang out other than practice. This might help you.
Drake flipped through his notebook to just past the next divider. Opposite the tab, a 5x7 portrait acted as a loose bookmark between the section's beginning and what looked like biology notes. The portrait itself depicted a blond, icy blue-eyed man wearing a frigid expression. A pair of black and cyan-highlighted headphones wrapped around his neck, a thin cord traveling down his chest from the left speaker. It was hard to tell from the shoulders up, but he didn't resemble Noel at all. Drake handed me the photo.
That's Dustin. If you see him on campus, and I know you live close enough to walk here, be sure to wave and say hi to him. He's a little shy, so don't expect him to wave back, but, smile anyway.
Like hell, I'd spend my day roaming around the university looking for a rock star athlete who blended in with everyone else around here, I thought. There had to be another way. You have his number?
No, bro, I told you, I only know the guy 'cause of Polo. If you want Dustin before August, you'll have to find him yourself.
I tapped my forehead. So Hillcrest, this rocker guy, anything else?
Nothing, really.
Thanks, man, I said as I got up off the couch and headed back to my car.
Call me, bro, anytime.
Drake got up and waved goodbye at me.
If I don't answer, I'm at class or practice.
He left Price in the opposite direction. Chapter 8. May 27th, 2017. I followed Drake's advice and traveled to Hillcrest alone on a Saturday afternoon. A half-hour's drive along clogged freeways and fighting other cars at 3 major interchanges, but worth the effort. Patchwork buildings, old and new, lined the streets, giving the neighborhood life. It was a completely different world than the one I grew up in, despite being within the same city. I recently turned 21 last September, so I had never been to any of the bars here, let alone drank any alcohol. I parked in a public lot, paid the fee for 2 hours' time, and walked around the neighborhood alongside a major 2-way street. I passed by a local coffee shop, reminding me of that same pungent drink Noel ordered in Cajon last month. A few places on this street sold food and trinkets, but not a single gay bar in sight. I reached another intersection, so I checked my scrawled and crumpled-up map. 6th? The signal said 6th and University, but Drake's penmanship was nothing to text home about. Pulling the trashy map closer to my eyes, his 6 looked too rigid. It had to be a 5 for 5th. I folded the map into my pocket and turned to my left and saw a beautiful red sign noting the Hillcrest community. Retro, but I loved it. I walked towards the sign 1 block. From the intersection, it took mere footsteps to reach the bar itself. It looked seedy on the outside, but I didn't want to judge a bar by its facade. I opened the bulky dungeon door slowly and crept inside. The bar itself had few people in it. No lookers at first glance, and surprisingly a lot of women for a bar catering to gay men. Or at least that was the impression I got from Drake. The cigarette smoke from a lesbian couple clogged my nose and gave me an unbearable headache. They lounged across from each other in a booth, puffing their cares away, unaware of the other patrons seated at the bar proper. The inside was a sea of red, with gaudy chandeliers dotting the ceiling like clusters of stars and crimson carpeting laced with ivy patterns. As I sat on a dingy brown stool near the center of the rustic wooden bar, a hunky blonde guy with unkempt hair approached me from a high-top booth against the opposite wall. If it weren't for the cigarette smoke, I could smell the beach water from his hair. He poked me on the shoulder, startling me for a second, and then he spoke in a surprisingly nasal tone.
Hey, do I know you?
I turned around and leaned back towards the bar. He looked like the guy from the slot machine in Vegas. You know, you look a bit familiar yourself.
Dude, you might have seen me here a few times, but I know you, and I've seen your work online.
He said.
You're Jason with Tribal Culture, am I right?
Yeah, who are you? I couldn't get off the stool. He cornered me with his ripped-looking physique. I imagined Noel standing next to him. This guy looked broader in the shoulders and a couple inches shorter. Blonde and blue to contrast Noel's achromatic window of brown, but their smiles almost matched. If anything, he would be the boyfriend Noel wouldn't be.
Relax, dude. I'm Riker, and I really like your photos. You do a good job capturing the male form, and that stud you hired is at least a 9 out of 10 with his shirt off.
I examined him. Like Tyler, his chest burst through his green and black checker-styled t-shirt. The guy's arms looked chiseled, every vein in place.
Why don't we chat in the back?
Riker pointed towards an opening in the back with 3 steps leading to a closed glass door.
No one's there during the day.
Why can't we do it out here? I was ready to leave for another bar. Anything he said in private could easily be heard from the barflies without any of them caring. I don't feel comfortable going in that room with a complete stranger.
5 minutes.
Riker slapped me on the shoulder.
That's all I need. Then you can go, dude.
I followed Riker up the stairs and through the glass door. The corridor was a tight fit even for me. As I passed through, I entered the back half of the bar and into a different world. The dingy but warmer reds and browns froze at the glass door, turning themselves into a stale concrete and gray brick prison, with a pool table and more modern-looking stools and high-top tables. Riker took a seat at the table closest to a staircase leading nowhere. He pulled me into him with his beefy arm and locked me next to him like I was a life-sized stuffed bunny.
Hey, dude.
He said. You could let me go, you know. No amount of resistance from me could break free of Riker's muscle prison, especially with my feet on the floor and my butt pinned to the bar stool.
I was wondering if you were looking for another model by any chance.
I didn't know what to say to that. I already had Noel. How was I going to pay 2 people at once? TCS had enough money to make a profit over the course of a month with 2 photo shoots a week. If I hired someone else, it could end up being a loss. I looked Riker over. He expected an answer. I don't know, I said.
Don't tell me you don't feel the power of my bicep flowing into you. Come on, feel my chest.
Riker squeezed me harder as he took my hand and placed it on his chest. He was definitely more ripped than Noel, and I was able to tell that even with his shirt on. He smiled as I pressed even harder to feel his full strength. Where was he when I did my first interview? If he was there, I would have picked him over Noel for sure.
Yeah.
He said.
All natural.
I let go of him with my free hand, but he still had his arm around me. So what do you do? I asked.
I'm a surfer normally, but the waves have been shit lately. So I hang out here now.
I laughed at his remark. That's not a way to make any money.
You're not that bright, are you, dude? That's a hobby. I'm really a personal trainer for Bodybuilding United over at Pacific Beach.
Riker handed me a business card with his personal information. So, I bet you're pretty strong then? I put the card in my wallet.
Of course, silly. Try and hit me.
Riker let me go and got up from the couch. He towered in front of me, standing perfectly still but relaxed. I slugged him right in the stomach, but he did not move a bit.
Weak.
He said.
You gotta put some meat on those bones. Try again.
I hit him several more times, but each hit didn't faze him at all.
So what do you think? You want nothing but sissies, or do you want someone who can put up a fight?
I'll think about it. Of course, Riker wasn't going to be a muscle guy for fighting. That's what Tyler's were for. Also, having him fight Noel would ruin everything all over again. I walked out of the bar, pinching my nose to keep the cigarette smoke away. After returning to my apartment, I called Tyler. I found another guy for TCS. I explained everything about Riker. He's going to be the perfect boyfriend.
Jason, listen to me. He'd better not be another fucking asshole like that emo guy.
Ty, you think everyone's an asshole?
Well, they are. Look at Justin and your parents. Spirits and voodoo dolls are not fucking real, and they certainly didn't teach you fucking social skills.
Neither did my real parents. Hell, they did nothing while Justin beat me up after school every day.
Fuck Justin, he had it coming. I'm glad he's in Gaytown now.
Of all the places my brother had to get an office job, it had to be San Francisco.
That'll teach him to be a fucking pompous homophobe and maybe how to swallow some chocolate cum.
We're not talking about Justin, we're talking about Riker.
I don't give a shit about the himbo, but since you do, maybe you should get to know the guy before you hire him.
You know, I paused for a bit. Maybe you're right, Ty. Maybe I should get to know him a bit first. I hung up the phone and spent the night tossing and turning in my cold bed thinking about Riker. Even with a shirt on, he felt so hot to me. 2 models, all to myself. I could imagine the awesomeness TCS's fans will shower us with when they see me escorted down the red carpet by 2 muscle-bound hunks. Even in this twin-sized bed, if they lay next to me, completely nude, it would make me rock solid hard. Although Riker might have a little bit of a personal space problem, He might be the perfect addition to my little clique. All I needed was a test of character.
Chapter 9, May 30th, 2017. Bodybuilding United, or BBU as I called it, was my home away from the condo. The gym, perched on the second floor of a strip mall, let the clients see Pacific Beach from the line of treadmills along the gym's back wall. The whole place was compact, taking up both floors. The owners insisted on reception being upstairs to force our clients to work out before they work out. We had everything a mid-sized gym would have: plyometrics, free weights and machines, an indoor swimming pool downstairs, and of course, lockers with a sauna and hot tub. No one used the latter, but we kept it running just in case. To me, looks were everything, and to look good, you had to lift. I worked out 3 times a day when I first moved to San Diego at 18 years old, and then reduced it to twice a day after I started training clients. BBU was perfect for me. Next to the ocean, I could train, then surf every single day. My personal locker always had a spare black rubber wetsuit just for those perfect days when the tide cooperated and I had only a few clients. "Come on, Kyle, one more set!" Standing at 6'2" and weighing around 230 pounds of pure black and bulky muscle, my newest client dwarfed me in all aspects of his body, from traps to glutes, except for his lack of visible abs without him flexing them. He was the strength, and I was the show. I stood behind him watching his form. Kyle was a crane, not an elevator. Each of his 8 reps showed the same improper technique. If it wasn't for his lack of form, he would have been training me. Kyle huffed out a few breaths.
Need a few.
30 seconds. I added 10 more pounds to each side of the squat bar, thinking he could lift it. 6 reps. Kyle took a deep breath and got back into position. He lifted the bar just as I got a text from Jason.
Want to meet me at the bar tomorrow?
Without watching Kyle, I accepted Jason's invite.
There!
Kyle slammed the bar on the squat rack.
Yeah, you happy?
"Don't slam the bar, dude, or I'll have to kick you out." I guided Kyle to the next machine, the leg curl. We each did about 3 sets there, and then moved on to our last leg exercise, the calf extension. I watched Kyle on this one. He did okay. It wasn't perfect, but given his build, it was fine. We were done here, so we both went back to the locker room. This was my sauna time. I entered the wooden door and found no one else inside. It was usually packed with guys, but somehow not tonight. To my surprise, Kyle joined me a few minutes later wearing a pair of red and black swim trunks. He didn't know anything about our gym's sauna etiquette. You're supposed to just wear a towel. Still, it was a time when we could get to know each other. He took a seat next to me on the wooden bench on the back wall.
Hey, when'd you start lifting?
He said. I laid myself down on the bench, trying to relax my back. Since high school, you?
Same here.
Kyle got up and poured some water over the hot rocks near the sauna door, adding some much-needed steam.
But I just moved down here from Fresno last year.
Nice, dude. I'm from the valley, too. You go to school?
Yeah, UCSD. I went to Fresno City before transferring. Don't you go too?
No, dude. My grades were shit. I was barely able to play soccer. I flipped myself over, laying prone and turning my head to face the door so I could continue talking. School sucked anyway. Too many rules and no recognition.
I bet PE was your favorite class.
Yeah, Kyle, it was. I sat back up soon afterward as the heat from the sauna bench sizzled my chest and abs. Yo, I need to check my phone. Give me a sec and I'll be right back. Kyle nodded, and I left the sauna. I searched my jeans and found my phone in my pocket. I checked it, and there was another message from Jason.
Where are you at, Noel?
Wrong number, dude. Within seconds, I got a reply.
Sorry, Riker, my mistake. How you doing?
Busy. I'll call you later. I put my phone away before Jason could reply. When I got back in the sauna, Kyle was still there.
What took you so long?
Just a stupid butt text. I took my seat next to Kyle again. He got up and poured some more water over the rocks.
Who was it?
He said as he sat back down.
Is he a bodybuilder too?
No one important. Just some guy I met at the bar. I checked out Kyle a bit. He had a lot more mass, but I had a lot more definition. It was easy, yet hard to compare him to Jason. That runt never lifted weights in his life. It was a mystery to me as to why exactly Kyle wanted as much personal training as he did, seeing he was a lot stronger than me. Then again, our body structures were different. If anything, I should have been training that boy Jason. Neither one of us said anything else in the sauna. Kyle occasionally poured water over the rocks until the bucket was empty. He stepped out for a few minutes to refill the bucket and then came back in. After 20 more minutes, both of us were done. I got out first and went straight to the mirror. It was much cooler in the changing area, and I could feel the air nipping at my bare skin while the droplets fizzled on my chest. I checked myself out, and I looked as sexy as ever, even more so than before. I winked at my reflection and went into a stall to change back into my gym swag. When I got back out, Kyle was gone. I met Jason at the same bar we were at in Hillcrest a few days later. His naive little eyes widened as he approached me sitting on the bar stool next to the pool table. I knew he'd have to say yes to me, a chiseled god amongst the chubby pigs of America. We sat together at the same table. "Hey dude," I said, "scoot over." He did as I asked. I wrapped my arm around his tiny frame of a body. It would have been perfect if he would just try lifting, but I'm not one to be pushy.
Surf's up, isn't it?
The twink said. I added a little more pressure to get him to say something more productive.
I'd imagine you'd be shredding waves.
"Hey dude, am I in or not?" Jason's a terrible liar. He didn't know anything about ocean currents, high tide, low tide. He was trying to tiny talk me, and I had no time for that bullshit.
I want to know you a little more.
The pint-sized Omega male said.
Like for reals, what's the real Riker?
You're looking at him. I rubbed my own pecs, thinking Jason wasn't paying attention to them. This is all natural Reich.
I get it, you have a nice body, but...
Thanks, Jason. I knew he'd say that, but there was more, and I wasn't ready for it.
You interrupted. That's not nice at all, and you didn't answer my question. What's the Riker inside you?
I had to think about it for a moment. He already knew my looks and some of my interests, but what was he really wanting? Looks make the model. No one online is going to give a shit about what's inside if they're obsessed with the out. They see a picture, and they think, look at that sexy hunk. Not is he a good guy or a bad guy. It's not like I'm dating the runt. He already has my card, so what now? Why don't you come to my gym tonight and I'll show you?
I'll take your offer,
Jason said.
You said you're a personal trainer, so train me.
First one's free, then it's $40 an hour. I handed Jason a guest pass for BBU for 1 day and 1 personal training session. I hope to see you tonight. I let him go and he stepped back, put on his hipster-style backpack, and left the bar. That evening, I looked over the salmon-colored concrete railing onto the strip mall's parking lot, arms folded across my chest, and taking a quick breath of the fresh sea breeze. Jason's car pulled into an empty space on the first level right in front of the surf shop underneath BBU. After paying for his parking spot, he climbed the stairs on the side of the building. Well, he showed up after all, I said to myself. Jason waved at me, acting none the wiser.
What's up, Riker?
Come to get some training, dude?
Yeah, let's do this.
With a beach towel folded over his shoulder and wearing a pair of blue board shorts unsuitable for a workout, he entered the gym through the already open glass door. I followed and rushed to get in front of him while inside. Hold on there, dude. Jason stopped in his tracks.
Something wrong?
You're my guest, dude, so why don't I give you a little tour first? He didn't know his way around the gym, so I escorted him to the locker rooms on the other side. He changed into his gym clothes faster than I expected, surprising since I didn't switch out anything but my shirt. Today was a pull day for me, meaning lats and buys. Abs were any day. I rested yesterday since I was training Kyle's back and biceps. Jason could probably work any muscle group, but I wanted him to pull since he could watch a pro. I took him to the free weights, but they were all full. There were way too many fatties and posers to give me the time of day. I didn't want Jason to associate with them when he could learn from the best. Because of his tiny frame, I instead put him on a seated row machine and set the pin to 40 pounds. Okay, Jason, I said. You'll need to face the cushion and pull the handlebars in front of you 10 times.
10 times? How?
After readjusting the pin to 160 pounds, I took a seat, resting my chest against the cushion and pressing in. I pulled a single set of 10 at a slower rate than usual to show Jason what I wanted from him. My arms glided past my sides until my hands formed a line with my back with every rep. After the last rep, I gently set the handlebars to their resting position and got up from the machine.
Okay, I get it now.
Jason set the pin back to 40 pounds and sat down like I showed him. He clenched his teeth, pulling with all his strength. The weights didn't budge.
That's too heavy. I can't lift that.
That shrimp couldn't even lift 40 pounds? Then again, we all had to start somewhere. I moved the pin up to 20, the lightest setting the machine had, since I wanted to see if he could even lift that backpack he always wore. It was a struggle, but the handles finally moved.
Yeah, this is much easier.
I watched his form. His arms didn't even go all the way back. He was wasting his strength only going to his sides. You need to go all the way back. It's the only way your back is going to get stronger.
All right, now what?
Why don't you do 2 more of those? Jason gave me a puzzled look. 2 more sets, 10 reps each. I watched him do the set again. It was harder for him, but I didn't know a way to make it easier, nor did I want to. Then again, if it's too hard for him to lift, then he'll blame me, and my shot at being with TCS will be history. He set the weights back down with a bang after his last rep. Dude, let's not slam the weights. Jason nodded. He did his last set with much better form and, surprisingly, a little bit of grace. Maybe he was bluffing about the whole 40 pounds, or he didn't warm up properly. I trained him with the other back and bicep machines until we got to our last stop, the arm curls.
Riker, wait up!
What did he want now? Was the guy quitting? I stopped and waited for him.
Before this last machine, I wanted to say you did an awesome job of training me.
I liked the genuine compliment and smiled back at him. Jason sat down on the curl machine and set it to 20 pounds, the same weight he had for each of the other machines. Maybe he was stronger than he gave himself credit for. Most people were. I gave him less guidance this time, seeing the arm curl machine easier to use compared to the others in the gym. His training here went as well as I expected. He did the same amount of reps and same amount of sets as I asked him to on the others, but as he was finishing his last set, he appeared slower.
Riker, I'm beat,
he said.
Meet me in the locker room.
I followed Jason into the locker room again, and he even saved me a seat in the sauna, but I wasn't interested in cooking in there 2 nights in a row. Can you come out here? I asked.
Can I get a little relaxation?
He said, slamming the sauna door shut.
You worked my butt off.
I waited outside the sauna door for a minute, and it opened up again. Jason came out with a much different mood than before.
You're hired, Riker.
Did I hear that right? Hired sounds a lot like fired, but his tone suggested the latter. He closed the door right in front of me. All my dreams lost. Our locker room also had a spa tub next to the sauna, but no one ever used it for some odd reason. I turned it on and changed into my Speedo. Just as I got inside, the sauna door opened a 3rd time and Jason came out. He turned to his right and saw me relaxing in the hot tub.
Hey, Riker.
I rose out of the spa, showing Jason my perfect physique and nodding as he stepped back in awe. Jason's eyes locked onto my pecs. He stood in the hall like a statue.
You cool with 8 o'clock Monday morning?
I was hired? Awesome. Yeah, thanks, dude. I won't let you down. Jason regained his composure.
Hey, you mind posing for a pic?
A modeling shoot already, and not even a minute after he hired me. Of course I couldn't refuse. I took a towel from the shelf between the sauna and spa and dried my frizzled hair. Still clad in nothing but my favorite Speedo, I leaned back against the wall and gave the biggest smile I could show, shutting my right eye to feign a wink at my new friend. Jason whipped out his phone and snapped a picture.
I have a real camera too, Riker.
Of course he did. Any guy worth a fuck had a professional camera. He just used his phone here to act less stalkery in the locker room. How'd it look? Jason showed me the picture. Nice, dude. Hey, send me that, okay?
Will do, but I've gotta go.
Jason and I went our separate ways, with me returning to the spa for some unfinished business. As I soaked in the spa again, a single thought crossed my mind. I was one step closer to greatness, and no one was going to stand in my way.